Hello fellow cheap things. Okay, so I've been delving into my archive once again, and I have to say at this point in time, if I've ever done this before, featured this particular item, I can only apologise. I'm 57, I've got a bad memory. But if I have done it before, and I have shown it you before, I probably didn't tell you the full story behind it. So I will do that for those of you who are remotely interested. So you can't see the inscription on it that well, sadly, but it does say, "For Mark, best Bowie 95. So yes, this takes us back to, you probably guessed, 1995. So Mark Radcliffe and I were on Radio 1 at the time and huge Bowie fans. I got in touch with the plugger, which was a guy called Neil Ferris of a company called Ferret and Spanner, and just suggested that David Bowie should be interviewed by Mark Radcliffe and I. He told me at that point that they were looking to do it with Steve Lamacq. Now, Steve Lamacq, to this day, also known as Lamo, is also a colleague of mine on Six Music. I was particularly disgruntled by the fact that we weren't getting it, obviously, but also I knew that Lamo wasn't particularly bothered about Bowie, so it seemed very wrong. So I got in touch with Neil and said, look, we should be doing this, not Lamo. So he said, all right, I'll have a think about this one. He came back to us and he said, right, we're going to have to do the interview in September. Yeah, that's fine. He said, but the thing is, David will be in New York. Are you prepared to go over to New York for a few days to interview him? Well, obviously within a nanosecond it was a yes, and we were just thrilled. We were going to go and meet David Bowie for the first time, but also go to New York. So as you can imagine, we were just hopping about. And so yeah, we were so looking forward to it. We were on air the night before we flew to New York till midnight. And I remember it vividly. I met Mark and producer Liz Roberts at Manchester Airport, all ready to go. But to be honest, looking a bit dishevelled. We'd probably had about 6 hours sleep. We had stubble, not Liz. And we had tracksuit bottoms on and t-shirts, you know, ready for a long, uncomfortable, tired journey to New York. Not complaining, mind. Anyway, when we got to the check-in desk, the woman said, I've got some good news for you. And I've got some bad news for you. Okay, fire away. The good news is that you've had an upgrade, which obviously is just great news. And more comfort, you get whatever you want. It was just, I don't know how it happened, but it did. She said the bad news is you can't get on looking like that. So the bottom line is that we were too scruffy. So we ran off to a shop called Tie Rack and we bought shirt and ties. Now, as you can imagine, we didn't buy pants. So if you can imagine the shirt and tie combo with tracksuit bottoms and trainers, we looked even worse than we did before. We looked absolutely ridiculous, but we did fit the remit. We were, in inverted commas, smart enough to get on the plane. Then the problem was that, and this seems so draconian now, but they wouldn't let Liz, a woman, get on the plane for an upgrade in jeans. Still can't work that one out. That seems so outrageous. Anyway, she ran around trying to find somewhere where she could buy a skirt. And in those days, I mean, we are going back to 1995, there weren't that many shops in the airport, and certainly most of them weren't open. And so she was just telling a tale of woe to the woman in the tie rack where we were buying our shirt and ties. And the lady said, well, I've got a spare skirt here if you want to borrow it. And that's what happened. So Liz got this skirt of this lady, went to New York in it, came back and sent it back to her. We're still eternally grateful. So we arrived in New York. We had like a day to prepare. That would be drink, obviously. And then the following day, we went over to a studio on Broadway, which is where Alistair Cook used to do Letter from America. And we sat there waiting, terrified for David Bowie to turn up. And turn up he did. And I remember the silence in the studio, the phone went, Liz picked it up, put it down, she said, he's here. And I remember my heart just beating. In fact, it was probably a little bit faster than that. And then David came up and just completely put us at ease. He was his typical gregarious, funny self, and he did a 2-hour interview with us and was brilliant, and then just disappeared into the night. And yeah, that was the first time that we met David Bowie. And we'd also get the chance to see him on that tour with Nine Inch Nails just outside of Boston. So the whole story was a result from start to finish. And what I got out of it eventually was this photograph. For Mark, best Bowie 95. The first of the many autographs that I got from David. Bye.